My granny made hominy in an iron pot big enough to bathe in, and she never wrote down a word of how. It lived behind her eyes and in her two hands, and when we buried her, most of it went in the ground with her. What I've got is what I caught at her elbow, small as I was, watching her drip water through a barrel of ashes and turn hard, dry corn into something soft and white and good. The county agents and the town doctors sang her all the same song. That old ash-and-lye cooking was poor people's foolishness. Dangerous, dirty. A good way to poison your own family. Buy your meal at the store like decent folks, and quit playing witch with a bucket of ashes. But here's the turn. Every last thing they mocked her for, the men in the white coats have since admitted she was right about. Number 3 is a plague that killed near 100,000 people down south and never touched her table. Number 11 is a hidden poison her ashes destroyed 9 times in 10. And number 1, she'd have laughed to hear a professor call it a trick. Now nobody ever passed a law against a pot of hominy. But they shamed it, mocked it, and near ran it off these mountains, and that's its own kind of banning. So count them down with me. 25 banned mountain hominy secrets the science took 100 years to catch up to. She knew first. If you never saw hominy made the old way, let me set it before you. You start with hard, dried corn, the kind that rattles, not the sweet corn off the cob in July. And you can't just boil it soft. That kernel is wrapped in a skin so tough your stomach can hardly break it. So the mountain women did a thing that looks, today, like madness. They cooked good food in lye. They dripped water through a barrel of hardwood ashes till it ran out brown, and that water ate the skin off the corn. Then they washed it in cold spring water till the lye was gone, and what was left was hominy, swelled up soft and white and near double the size. The whole valley ate off it, morning and night. Every expert who came up the holler said the store meal was cleaner, safer, modern. What none of them knew, till a laboratory finally caught up in the last lifetime, is that this ugly business with the ashes was the smartest thing anybody's ever done to corn. She just called it making hominy. Let's count. Number 25, the barrel of ashes. Every drop of lye that made her hominy, Granny made herself from wood ashes and water. She set a barrel on a slant, packed it with cook stove ashes, and poured water through slow, catching the brown run at the bottom. The store men laughed at a woman brewing cleaning fluid to cook in. But that drip was real lye, the same strong alkali they'd later sell in a can with a skull on the label. Hardwood ashes and water throw off a base strong enough to eat through the toughest part of the corn. She was running a chemistry bench in the backyard and calling it Tuesday. Number 24. Hardwood, never pine. Granny burned hickory and oak for her lye ashes and wouldn't touch pine for it. Folks thought her particular over nothing, but hardwoods like hickory and oak leave ashes packed with the strong salts that make good lye. Soft, resinous pine leaves a weak, tarry ash that never builds the strength you need and taints what it touches. The chemists say the very same today. She couldn't have named the salt, but she knew hickory made hominy and pine made a mess. Number 23. Reading the lye with an egg. Granny had no way to measure how strong her lye ran, so she floated a fresh egg in it. Sank, and it was too weak. Back through the ashes it went. Bobbed up showing a patch of shell the size of a nickel, and it was ready. The extension men called it an old wives' game, but it was a true measurement. The more alkali dissolved in water, the denser that water gets, and the higher the egg rides. She was reading the strength of a solution by how high it floated a known weight. Exactly how the laboratory does it, minus the fancy glass. Number 22. The zap on the tongue. Here's one to stop your heart. Granny touched a drop of the working lye to her tongue and read it by the sting. A little bite meant it was right. A hard burn meant it was too fierce and wanted cutting with water. The inspectors would have fainted, but she was testing an alkali's strength by feel, a rough read on the same thing litmus paper measures. Now don't you go licking lye. Her tongue was an instrument and it was calibrated. Number 21. The all-day boil. Once the lye was right, the corn boiled low and steady for hours, till the tough skins loosened and slid off like a coat coming off. The efficiency folks called it a criminal waste of a day. But that long boil is the trick, and it can't be rushed. The alkali needs time and heat to dissolve the glue in that skin and let it slip free. Take your time and the hull peels away and the kernel swells up soft. You'll know it's done when a kernel rubbed between your fingers sheds its skin. Number 20. Wash it and wash it again. After the boil, Granny rinsed that corn over and over, rubbing it in her hands, pouring off the cloudy water, filling it fresh, till it ran clear. The neighbors thought her wasteful with water and time, but every rinse did two jobs. It carried off the loosened skins and it carried off the lye, so not a trace of harshness was left. And though nobody knew it then, it hauled out worse things besides, which we'll come to. Rinse till the water runs clean, and the corn tastes of corn. Slick or soapy, and you're not done. Number 19. The hard old corn. Granny grew an old open-pollinated corn for her hominy, a big kerneled heirloom kind with names like Hickory King, and turned up her nose at the modern hybrid field corn. Folks thought her stubborn, but she knew what held up in the pot. Those big old-time kernels hull clean in the lye and come out whole, where the modern hybrids bred for the feed trough won't slip their skins the same way. The seed savers and food scientists have circled all the way back to those old hominy corns now, for this very reason. Number 18. One pot, three foods. From a single kettle of hominy, Granny made near everything. Whole it was hominy, ground coarse, grits, ground fine, meal for cornbread and dumplings. The store sold grits and meal too, so folks figured hers were the same, only more trouble. But they were not the same at all. Store grits and meal are just dried corn ground raw. They never saw the ashes. Hers were made from hominy first, ash-treated, transformed, same shape on the plate, a whole different food underneath. And that difference is the thread that ties this whole list together, so hold on to it. Number 17. Beans in the same breath as corn. There was never soup beans without cornbread beside them, and never bread without beans coming. The Cherokee before her wrapped corn and beans in a leaf and boiled it into bean bread. The learned men wrote it off as a poor plate. But there's a thing hiding in that pairing nobody planned. Corn runs short on one building block your body needs. Beans run short on a different one. Each carries exactly what the other lacks, so together they feed you complete, where either alone leaves you wanting. The nutrition scientists call it complementary proteins. Two poor foods that make one whole one. Corn and beans at the same table, every time. Number 16. Hickory milk over the hominy. The old Cherokee way, still alive here, was to pound hickory nuts, shell and all, boil them, strain them, and pour that rich milk over a bowl of hominy. It sounds like backwoods make-do. It's a nutritionist's dream. Hominy is soft and filling but light on fat and on some protein. That hickory milk pours both right back in, and a body takes more from a meal with fat in it. Hominy alone holds you a while. Under hickory milk, it holds you like a meal. Number 15. Letting the hominy go sour. Some families kept a pot of thin hominy soup on the back of the stove and let it work and sour for days. Sofky, the Creek people called it. To a modern eye, that's spoiled food. To the science, it's fermentation, and it's a gift. The good little bugs that sour it are the same kind that make sauerkraut and pickles safe. They keep the bad bugs out, ease the corn on your stomach, and build up more of the very vitamins it was short on. Soured on purpose isn't spoiled. It's a slow, safe, living food. Number 14. Never corn all by its lonesome. Granny's corn always came with something. A piece of fatback, a bit of pork, buttermilk in the glass, milk on the mush. She'd have thought you a fool to eat nothing but cornbread 3 times a day, but the poorest sharecroppers in the flatlands did exactly that, because it was all they had, and that difference, a little meat and milk beside the corn, was the difference between a long life and a killing sickness. Corn alone is missing something your body's got to have, and a scrap of pork or a cup of milk hands it right back. Hold that thought, because in a few numbers it becomes the most important thing on this list. Number 13. Burning rock into lime. When she could get it, Granny had a second way, not ashes but lime. She'd burn limestone, or the old folks burned creek mussel shells, into a white powder, slaked it with water, and used that instead. The town folks couldn't see why anybody'd burn rocks to cook corn. But that lime does everything the ashes do, and then one big thing more, which is the very next number. Ashes or lime, she had 2 roads to the same soft corn, and walked whichever one the land gave her. Lime makes the sweeter, cleaner tasting hominy. Number 12. The bones hiding in the corn. Here's the one big thing lime does. When Granny made hominy with lime instead of ashes, the corn drank the calcium right out of it and came out with something like 18 times the calcium it went in with. 18 times. Now think, half these families had no dairy cow, no milk to speak of, yet their bones and their children's teeth held strong. The doctors puzzled for years over how folks with no milk weren't crippled with soft bones. The answer sat in the hominy pot. Lime-treated corn is quietly one of the richest calcium foods a poor family ever had. Number 11. The poison you couldn't see. This one raises the hair on my neck. Corn that sits in a damp crib grows a mold, and that mold makes a poison. One of the worst natural poisons there is, one that ruins the liver over years and can't be seen, smelled, or tasted. Granny never knew it existed, and her ash pot destroyed 9 in 10 of it, every time. The alkali tears the poison apart, and the endless rinsing washes the wreckage away. The scientists proved it only recently and were astonished. This old peasant process is one of the best defenses against that poison ever found. She guarded her babies from a thing she couldn't have named. That ugly lion rinse was never dirty. It was the cleanest thing in the kitchen. Number 10. Unlocking the good already there. Plain corn carries a substance that clamps onto its own minerals and holds them so tight your body can't pull them loose, so they pass through unused. The nutrition men counted the minerals in raw corn and figured a corn eater well supplied, but the good was there and out of reach both. Granny's ash and lime process breaks that grip and loosens the lock, so the minerals in the corn actually reach the person eating it. It's not just what's in your food, it's what your body can get out of it. Number 9, putting hominy up for winter. Granny didn't make hominy in January, when the creek was froze and the work miserable. She made big fall batches and dried the hominy hard, or in deep cold let the whole pot freeze and chipped off a chunk to thaw as needed. The store men said just buy a bag, but her way was free and it kept. Dry a food hard enough, pull the water clean out, and nothing can grow to spoil it. The same reason jerky keeps on a nail a year. Freezing holds it in a kind of sleep. A fall's work and a cold snap gave her year-round corn. Number 8, the same ashes made the soap. That same barrel of wood ash-lye that cooked the corn also made the family soap. Granny cooked the strong lye down with fat and grease, saved off the hogs, and it turned, right in the pot, into lye soap for the whole year's washing. The store wanted to sell her a wrapped bar, but she pulled her cooking lye and her washing soap out of one barrel of ashes and the scraps off a hog. Lye and fat make soap, the same reaction in every fancy bar on the shelf. Nothing on that place was wasted, because the leftover of one job started the next. Number 7, the hogs ate what you didn't. Not a scrap of corn was thrown out. The skins rinsed off the hominy, the broken bits, the grinder siftings, all of it went to the hogs, who turned it into next winter's meat, next year's lard, and the grease for next year's soap. The modern kitchen throws away a third of what it buys. Granny's threw away nothing, because the tail end of the corn walked out on 4 legs and came back as bacon. There's no science here, just a wisdom we've plumb forgotten. Number 6, corn that finally holds together. Try to shape a dumpling from plain raw cornmeal and water and it falls to pieces. It won't stick to itself. But hominy ground into dough holds like magic, soft and pliable, the way a tortilla or a corn dumpling has to. Granny knew hers behaved and store meal didn't. The food scientists know why now. That ash-and-lime treatment changes the very starch and lets it bind to itself in a way raw corn simply cannot. It's not a better cook that makes corn dough hold. It's the treatment. Number 5, corn that sits easy. Folks on plain cornbread often said it sat heavy on the stomach. Granny's hominy never did. Her people ate corn every day and thrived on it. Treating the corn her way doesn't just free the vitamins and minerals, it changes the protein itself so your body breaks it down and uses more of it. The lab has measured that ash-treated corn is genuinely better digested than the raw. Number 4, why she'd never buy the store meal. There came a day the mills sold a new corn meal, cleaner looking, longer keeping, cheap. To make it keep on the shelf, they stripped out the oily heart of the kernel, the germ. Granny wouldn't have it in her house, and everyone said she was behind the times. She was ahead of them. That germ they threw out was where much of the corn's goodness lived. The vitamins, the healthy oil. The de-germed meal looked prettier, kept longer, and fed you worse. This started around the turn of the last century, 1901, when a machine made degerming quick and cheap, and it set the table for a catastrophe we're about to reach. Cleaner looking and longer keeping is not the same as better for you. More often it's the opposite. Number 3, the plague that skipped her table. Here's the reckoning this whole list has walked toward. In the early 1900s, a sickness swept the southern states like a curse. They called it pellagra. It came on with a raw, scaling rash, then the bowels let go, then the mind itself began to go. The old folks named it by the 4 Ds, the dermatitis, the diarrhea, the dementia and death. Something like 3 million people took sick, and near 100,000 died. Whole asylums filled with the mind lost. And it fell hardest on the poorest, living on nothing but cheap, degermed cornmeal, corn and corn and corn, with no meat or milk beside it. A government doctor named Goldberger showed, back in 1915, that it wasn't a germ at all. It was the diet, plain hunger for something the corn was missing. And here's the part that stops your breath. Up in these mountains, where families made hominy the old ash way and kept a little pork and milk on the table, pellagra was rare. Granny never knew the word. Her cooking was a wall against a plague, and she raised it without ever seeing the enemy. Number 2, the vitamin locked in the corn. So what was the corn missing? It has a name, niacin, one of the B vitamins. And here's the cruel twist. The corn wasn't empty of niacin at all. It was full of it. But in plain corn, that vitamin is locked up tight, in a form your body simply can't pull loose. Only about a third of it ever reaches you, no matter how much cornbread you eat. You can starve for a vitamin sitting right there on your plate. And what breaks the lock? Alkali, ashes, lime, the very thing Granny put in her pot. Her lye cooking freed that bound vitamin and made it something a body could finally use. A Wisconsin doctor named Elvegem nailed niacin down as the missing piece in 1937, and pellagra was beaten within a few years. But Granny's ashes had been freeing that vitamin long before anyone knew its name. She wasn't just cooking, she was doing biochemistry with a barrel of ashes and a wooden paddle. And number 1, the word for all of it. Every single thing on this list, the ashes, the lime, the long boil, the freed vitamin, the calcium, the poison destroyed, the corn that finally holds, is one single process. 1. It has a $5 name the scientist gave it, nixtamalization. And it's not new, and it was never hers alone. It's more than 3,000 years old, older than most of what we call civilization, worked out by native peoples of the Americas long ago and carried up into these hills, handed down grandmother to grandmother all that way until it reached a barrel of ashes in Granny's backyard. And here's the ending that ought to make you laugh and ache at once. In the 1940s, after all those dead, the government passed laws forcing the mills to put the missing vitamin back into their stripped white meal and bread, to fix by law what one old process had done for free for 3,000 years. They spent a fortune and 100,000 lives to reinvent what Granny knew in her 2 hands. She'd have laughed to hear a professor call it a trick. It was never a trick. It was the deepest wisdom on this mountain, and it near died out because it looked poor. Now here's the truth underneath it all. She could hand you the steps. She could never hand you the hands, the knowing of when the lye ran right, and the hoe was ready, and the corn was done, and that took a lifetime at the pot. When she passed, most of that knowing passed with her. But I stood, and I watched. A thread of it lives in my hands yet. That's why I'm setting it down here, for you. So here's my challenge. Don't let this be one more thing you watched and forgot. Pick one, only one, and go do it. Buy a bag of dried corn and a little food-grade lime, and make a pot of real hominy by feel, not by the clock. Or if that's too far, do the smallest thing on this list, and never let corn sit alone on your plate again. Then come down in the comments and tell me whose hands you learned from. What did your grandmother, your mama, do at her stove that she never wrote down? the thing you only carry because you stood there small and watched. Whose was she, and what holler or county did she cook in? Tell me, and let's gather some of it up before it slips off these mountains for good, because that's the whole point. It lived in one woman's hands at a time, and what dies is the hands, not the corn. If this stirred something in you, hit that subscribe button and stay with me for more mountain secrets like these.